everybody. Welcome to the April 7th Manitoba Stronger Together call. We're glad that you're here on this snowy April night. Seems that we're starting to have a little bit of a storm here, thanks to our friends in Alberta. And I could have guaranteed that we were going to have this storm because Rosalie and I got to drive to Red Deer in the next day or so. So obviously it would storm. But hopefully that cleans up right away and we'll be able to go and see our friends out there. So again, tonight we've got Jason Lavigne on, and everybody knows Jason. He's no stranger here. If you recall, Jason's not only been on the Zoom call a number of times, but he also helped co-host at the Stronger Together conference. I believe he co-hosted one or two panels on the Stronger Together conference. So we know Jason very well. He's got the Lavigne show that starts at 8 a.m. Central Time every morning, 5 days a week. And he also was the fellow who helped develop and produce the movie The Shot that was in Winnipeg a month or so ago. And he's going to talk a little bit about that. You know what? I was on an interview with him on his program this morning, and he was so thankful for you folks, Manitoba Stronger Together folks. He said that the outpouring of generosity from the members of Manitoba Stronger when they were here in Manitoba was unmatched in the country, and they've been doing this everywhere in the country. And so you guys, I'm so proud of you all. You know, you showed up
Yeah.
and you participated and you were, you know, you I always think in these things you always get more than you give, and you folks gave a lot, but you also got, when I walked through that room and I saw you all interacting with each other like old friends, a community, which is what we've been trying to build for 2.5 years, um, and then saw you coming together and supporting each other and supporting Jason, and it's just it's a real incredible thing to see, and you guys should be very proud of what you're building here. So Jason, hopefully he'll be on shortly. I know he was flying around today. He took off somewhere. I think he's in BC right now. He took off just after the show tonight or this morning. So what we're going to be talking about with Jason is we'll be talking about the. I'm just going to share my screen here. And what we're looking at right now on the screen is the blog post. And in that blog post, we have we have a discussion on what we're going to be talking about. So I'm just going to back it up a little bit. And I always put the Zoom links in here because I get phone calls pretty much every week. Well, how can I get on the Zoom call? Well, the buttons are everywhere. They're in the blog posts. They're on the main, the homepage of our website. If you just page down an inch or two. And it's always the same, by the way. The link is always the same every week. So Jason Lavigne is going to be on tonight, and we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. We're going to talk about how the movie is doing, The Shot. He's going to talk about the Bearing Witness Conference in Red Deer this Saturday. We're going to talk a little bit about Alberta sovereignty if we have a chance. And you know what? There's a couple of other little things there I'm not going to mention until he comes on, and because we'll let him talk about it. But we're so right now you're just seeing in the blog post the things we're going to be talking about tonight with Jason. We're going to talk about behind the scenes, a live event experience, Western sovereignty developments, staying informed, getting involved, and then we're going to have a Q&A. So I'm going to try to stop the interview a little bit earlier to allow you guys to ask questions. So if you've got questions for Jason, or perhaps you don't yet, but give it some thought and we'll try to make room for you to do that. Right now, what you see on the screen is our little 30-second commercial about how to get involved and that you should be getting involved in things. And people just want to complain. They don't want to do anything. And although it's fantastic to be on these things once a week, we need to do more. We need to be writing letters. We need to be, even if it's baking cinnamon buns and bringing it to an event, we need to do those kinds of things. So just although we're already into this, just a welcome to everybody. We've talked about that already. The meeting format, just a quick reminder, if this is your first time here, we are recording the meeting, but when the official video comes out, I will make sure that none of the little screenshots are on there. So you don't have to be concerned about turning your camera off because you'll be on the video. We edit that out. Respectful atmosphere and diverse opinions. Manitoba Stronger is committed to maintaining a respectful and thoughtful environment. Our guest speakers express viewpoints which are their own and not necessarily those of Manitoba Stronger. And that's perfectly fine. We value diversity of perspectives and believe that open civil dialogue is essential to healthy, informed community. Let's listen generously, ask questions thoughtfully, and engage constructively. You know, we all were very upset with what happened over the last 6 years and what's continuing to happen with regard to government and institutional censorship. So certainly we're not going to exercise that here. You know, I have people say to me all the time, Ken, why did you have that person on? Well, you need to hear it. Whatever you want to hear, or whatever you're hearing in the news, you need to hear it from the source. Whether you agree with it or not, that's fine, but you need to hear it from the source because things are so corrupted right now with regard to our media sources. What you're seeing in that little yellow box right now is all of our social media accounts. And again, this isn't the blog post. So if you can't remember any of these things, and you've received the blog post because you're on our mailing list, everybody on our mailing list gets it. Just go there and you can click on any of this stuff. All those are all live links. So we're on Gab, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Rumble. Now, this is the part that everybody's been waiting for. Anthony, what's going on with our dear friends at the Winnipeg metropolitan region?
Well, not a whole lot. There's no more that have dropped out or anything like that. But we do know that Micah Moore stepped down as the chair,
Yeah.
and the new chair is the mayor of Niverville.
No.
Yep.
My goodness. So wait a minute. I just want to get this straight. So when the WMR presented their Plan 2050 2 years ago in the summer in Niverville, there was a near riot. We couldn't understand why 8 municipalities have dropped out, but Niverville didn't drop out. And so you're telling me now that the mayor of Niverville is now the chairman?
You betcha. I know you can't make this stuff up.
That tells you something. That tells you something.
Well, it tells me a bunch of things. One of the things it tells me is where are all our members in Niverville and what are they doing? Are they writing letters? Are they reminding this person that there's an election on the 28th of October? That's a rhetorical question. I hope nobody takes offense with that because you're in Niverville. But if you're in Niverville or if you know somebody in Niverville, get them to get a hold of me and we should start putting pressure on these people. You know, you've got Niverville, Cartier, Richaud, Rosser, St. Francis. This is incredible. Headingley, they haven't dropped.
Yeah.
I mean, Headingley is another one that's really interesting because as you remember, the mayor of Headingley stood up in a WMR meeting a month or two ago and said he doesn't know what the plan is. There's nothing to sell, he said. So why in the heck are they still in it?
Yeah. I've emailed these municipalities about 3 times. And of course, they don't respond because it's just me.
Yeah. Isn't that something? What you're seeing on the screen now is because I've said it the last couple of times about this mayor of Headingley, and I'm not necessarily picking on him, but it's just a fact. And I'm just trying to, you see here, if I can quickly find that video where he absolutely stands up in the meeting and he says, I think this is it. I think this is the video.
I think the biggest issue in my mind is the fact that I have a hard time on the street selling it. I can't think of, like, I mean,
this is the mayor of Headingley.
Or one of my 26 years in municipal politics, I've always felt that I could go on go to a coffee shop with residents and tell them why we made a decision we made. I have a lot of trouble selling this as like what's in it for us as a community. And, you know, until we get
I
some
sent an
tangible
email yesterday to
evidence that
the
it's
mayor of
actually in
Headingley
it,
saying,
and
why
the
are you not
province can
opting out?
tangibly say, hey, look, we're putting
Can I
in
respond?
50 million.
No,
Well, I mean, there he is, folks. There he is at a board meeting saying that they can't sell it because he doesn't know what it is, and he's complaining about his 26 years in politics, and he's never seen anything like it, but he's still not out. And I want to remind you guys that if they don't get out before the municipal election on October 28th, then they are stuck in the WMR for the next 8 years as a minimum. Because although we have the so-called Freedom Bill, the rumor on the street, what I heard from, I didn't hear it directly from the minister, but the minister's saying that, well, you know, after the election, according to their Freedom Bill, if you want to be out, they don't have to let you out. They need to consider it, but they don't have to. And so they've been touting that, well, they're not going to let anybody out for 8 years. So these people, like the mayor of Headingley, who here tells you he doesn't know what the hell is going on, he can't sell it, and yet he's going to stick the next administration with this for 8 years. And that means you're going to be paying those fees. I don't know what they are. I think they're about $15,000-$20,000 per municipality, these small municipalities per year. But then the province is putting in $500,000 every year in this thing. So if he doesn't know what it is and he can't sell it, why in the heck isn't he out of it?
Maybe a bunch of us should email him and send him that video.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're all mad enough that I published these videos. They didn't
great
like
idea,
that.
Anthony.
What's that? Sorry?
No, I said, great idea, Anthony. We should send him that video reminding him what he said. It's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'll send one. If anybody else, you can go to our website to our YouTube page. You can see where it was on our YouTube page. Just click the 3 dots for sharing it, take the link and send it there. And you don't have to be a resident of Headingley to do that. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling. And then, like I said, for the town of Niverville, I mean, my goodness, the town of Niverville, that's a shocker. You know, Anthony, didn't we talk about the town of Niverville last week or the week before, saying we don't understand why they're not out?
Yes, we did.
I guess we know.
Now you know why.
That's incredible.
Yeah, backroom deals.
Something. And the arm of Rosser, I understood that they were going to vote last week. Did we hear anything out of that?
No, nothing yet.
Who's the mayor there? Do you know?
I do. It's what's his name? Sorry, I can't remember.
Well, that's okay. It's in the just for everybody to know.
Mm-hmm.
In our lessons schedule, if you go to the section 8 and it's extras, so I can't remember which lesson extras is, but it's labeled that way. The list of all of the mayors of all of the municipalities, all 337 municipalities in Manitoba, plus their email addresses, their names, and their phone numbers are all in that book.
Is it
I
Ken
just
Mulligan?
remembered it's Ken
Yes,
Mulligan.
it's Ken Mulligan.
It's Ken
Yeah.
Mulligan, and I dropped off a letter there. They said they were going to send me a letter in response. I have checked my mailbox. I still have not received a letter.
Well, that's, so it sounds to me like this is just me talking out on the top of my head, but it almost sounds to me like there's some kinds of deals that are going on in the background here, because the people who are staying in, the city of Winnipeg, you wouldn't expect them to leave, of course, even though we all know that at a previous board meeting, from what I've been told, there was a big fight and the mayor stomped out of the room and wouldn't be a part of this anymore. So they've got somebody else on council who's now representing the city there. I mean, but we know they're not leaving. It's just a win for them. So now we know why Niverville's staying in. I just wonder what the reasons are with Cartier, Richaud, Rosser, and St. Francis. That's really interesting.
And Stonewall.
Yeah, Stonewall hasn't left yet either.
No, they haven't. And
My,
I've been pushing.
I don't know what they think they're waiting for. They've already been told they're not getting the plan till they pushed it off now till January 1st, 2028. And the deadline is October 28th, 2026 for the election. So I don't know what the heck they think they're doing. It's incredible. You guys, uh, write letters to these people. They're sample letters. Remember we talked about it? There's sample letters on our website, on the in the WMR section. I'm just gonna go to that. Sorry guys, I don't want to get you dizzy here, but if you go to the homepage, you can see WMR 2050 here. If you click on that, everything you need to know about the WMR is here, and there's actually letters on here, sample letters, different ones for the mayor, different ones for the premier, and I'm just there you go. Sample letters you can use. This is one for the mayor and councilors. There's one to the premier, which is not much point now because they got the Freedom Bill, to the MLAs, so on and so forth. So those letters have been there now for a year and a half, 2 years that folks can use. I'm just going to go back to the agenda, to the blog, back onto here. Rosa, are you keeping your eye out for Jason?
Yes, and he's not in yet.
Okay, I mean, he should be here by now. You know what? I'm gonna leave general updates on the screen. I'm just gonna go get my phone and I'm gonna text him. Hold on a second.
You know what? I have my phone. I think he's on my phone.
Oh, then text him, Ron.
Yeah, okay. Jason.
I know he was traveling this morning. He was flying somewhere, so I'm gonna guess he's gonna join in from some motel or hotel somewhere. But he's probably in another time zone and has kind of lost track, I would think.
Hey, I texted him.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so on general updates, there wasn't a lot of changes here. Candidate training session this evening for 20 minutes after this meeting. I just left the municipal election guidelines release. Just for those folks who are attending the course after the meeting, probably not this week, but next week we're going to be actually going through the nomination forms and all of the other stuff, just to take you guys through that process so that you'll be more familiar with that. And those documents are contained in that workbook. So we're going to go through that not this week, but probably in the next week or so. The next item on the updates is the conference in Red Deer on Saturday. I think it will be an interesting conference. Everything's always interesting in Alberta. And one of the other things that we've got on here is we're doing a Q&A on the shot afterwards with Jason Lavigne, myself, and with Dr. Hodkinson. And if you don't know Dr. Hodkinson, it will be worth the trip and it will be worth the purchase of the $30 ticket just to listen to Dr. Hodkinson for 10 minutes.
He's priceless.
Yeah, he is priceless. He's been in this from the beginning and he's fearless. And
he's got super colorful language.
Yeah, you know, he's the typical classical Brit. If that makes sense.
That's what he thinks.
If you recall the first showing of The Shot in Winnipeg, I asked Jason how he was able to keep him so composed during the filming of The Shot.
Yeah, and I remember Jason's answer too. Do you?
I don't know.
What Jason's answer was, well, you know, Dr. Hodgkinson showed up for like 7 or 8 minutes in the movie, but we had to film an hour and a half in order to get that 7 minutes. Anyway, he's quite the individual. Proud to know him. The next thing on the agenda is just a reminder about the Leadership Candidate Development Program. And I mentioned to you before that
Oh, there he is.
yeah,
He's in.
I saw
Yeah.
it. I saw it. I mentioned to you before that we are talking to other groups and people in the country to participate in that. And I have a meeting, I don't know if it's this Friday or next Friday, with the Frontier Center. They're talking about coming in and adding some really good stuff with regard to the courses that we're talking about. Keep in mind also that we were expanding, we're in the process of expanding this from just the Manitoba Stronger Together. We're also creating a website called the um, Stronger Together. What is it, Rosalie? Stronger Together Academy, with all kinds of lessons on it, with different people participating or different groups participating and bringing up stuff. So that's an exciting thing going on. Upcoming Zoom calls. So next week, well, we've got a couple of really good treats for you next week. If you remember, a couple of weeks ago, Rosalie was on and she was talking about her musings about how she was considering running for office in the municipal election. Now, anybody who's been taking our course knows that until you're a registered candidate, and that registration doesn't open up for another month yet, but until you're a registered candidate, you can't come out and say, I am running for, or give me your vote. But you can say, I'm considering running. I want to understand what the issues are for the constituents, and you can talk to them and whatnot. So what we're going to start trying to do now is have another one of those people who are considering running coming on the Zoom call every week from now on. And we have next week's lined up, and I'm not going to tell you who it is until next week, but we have a person who's considering running for office who is going to come on, and we're going to have a little interview with them next week so you can get to know them, or at least get an introduction to them. And maybe if you want to get a hold of them and talk to them about volunteering or potentially volunteering, remember, I can't say that they're doing this or that because they're not registered yet. So we're going to have somebody, we've got it lined up for next week. Also next week, we have Sean and Teresa Buckley on, and they're going to talk about the bill. I think it's C2, is it C244 or C224, private members bill that they've got. I think it's in second reading in Parliament right now, and it's in the process with the Parliament where you can now submit papers on it or commentary on it. So Sean and Teresa are going to talk about that process. They're going to go through it with you because they want folks to actually submit submissions to the Parliament. It's a neat opportunity for you to be involved in something that's near and dear to your heart, and maybe you wouldn't have been involved with it otherwise unless you had somebody like this on to explain the situation to you. So that's what we've got next week, April 14th. The following week, we've got another person who's considering running for office, and they're going to come on, and we're going to do the same kind of thing with them. And again, we're going to try to do that for every week coming forward now. So if you are considering running for office, please get a hold of me. Fill out the form on our website, because that form is really a help for you. It's more of a help for you than it is for us. And I'm just going to go to it right this very second. So I'm going to go back up to the top here. I'm going to go to the home page. And then I'm going to go over here and click this jump to the Learning Hub. And there's a form at the bottom of this page, I believe, or is it the other one? Here it is. So there's a form under this page, and this is the page, by the way, where you saw where I clicked. And when you want to go to the learning portal, here's the learning portal. You click this button. But if you want to go to the form, you just page down to the bottom and fill this in. And the reason I say it will really help you in the process, you fill in this form, you're not committing to doing it. What you're doing is you're saying, listen, I'm considering this. I want to have a chat about it. And when you fill this out, it asks you questions, leading questions like, why are you running for office? So, you might not think of these things on your own necessarily. And if you fill this in, it starts you in the process of thinking about this. What are your top 3 priorities? summarize your professional experience and all that kind of stuff. It's all on here. You push the button. It only goes to us. And I'll get a hold of you. You'll get a response, an automated response that tells you that you successfully submitted. And then we'll get a hold of you and we'll have a chat with you and we'll schedule you in. If you want to be scheduled in, if you don't, that's fine too. But we're here to, look, we're not running campaigns. We're not a political party, but we have members who are interested. We have members who want to get involved. And so what we want to try to do is connect people up, right? And we want to give you guidance if you can. That's why we're offering the course, etc. So, Ken, you got your hand up. Go ahead. Ken, are you muted?
Are you sure he had his hand up? I didn't see that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
When you were going through it and you brought up questionnaire, I thought, that term alone might frighten some people off.
Well, it might.
Maybe you can find something a little more gentle, like.
I tell you what, send me a suggestion, my friend.
I will.
I'll be more than happy. All right, let's keep going here. So where are we in the agenda? I think, Deb, you're up next. Give me just a moment to go back to the blog post and get to your section of the agenda. Here we go. Close your eyes so you get dizzy with the way I'm going through this. And you're right, it's Deb. Go ahead, Deb.
Okay, you can hear me?
We can hear you perfectly.
Okay, well, first of all, before we even get going, I'd like to give a big shout out to the World Men's Curling Team, Matt Dunstone from the Granite Curling Club in Winnipeg, that graciously brought back the silver for Manitoba. So I think that was quite an accomplishment. Anyway, on with the news. Slay News, Canadian government advances plan to criminalize quoting Bible's hatred. Western Standard exposes City Hall, Calgary forced citizens to sign a DEI pledge just to speak at City Hall. Children's Health Defense, WHO teams with Singapore firm tied to Pfizer, Bill Gates to roll out global vaccine passports. Western Standard, John Carpay, Bill C-22 explains Ottawa froze protesters' bank accounts and now wants to come for your phone records. Western Journal, Colorado Supreme Court sides with Christian counselor, strikes down ban on conversion therapy. Rebel News, Alberta moves to strip politics and ideology from classrooms with sweeping education overhaul. NHPPA, Wednesday, April 8th at 4 p.m., Bill C-224 with the Standing Committee on Health, the Charter of Health Freedom petition in the hands of the government, waiting on a response. Focal Points, Dr. Peter McCullough exposes the genetic fallout of the vaccine era. Children's Health Defense, Pfizer, Biotech halt U.S. COVID vaccine study after recruitment struggles. Slay News, UN official quits, blows whistle on the nuclear war planning. And last but not least, Winnipeg Sun, text message scam linked to bread price fixing settlement. So our wins of the week that we picked this week are the Western Journal, Colorado Supreme Court sides with Christian counselor, strikes down ban on conversion. Win of the week, number 2, Rebel News, Alberta moves to strike politics and ideology from classrooms with sweeping educational overhaul. And win of the week, number 3, Children's Health Defense, Pfizer Biotech halt U.S. COVID vaccine study. An honorable mention is Slay News, UN official quits, blows whistle on war planning.
Well, thank you, Deb. Now, somehow I screwed up on the blog post and I had different wins of the week in there. I wonder how I did that.
Oh,
Isn't that
I don't know.
I've got
That maybe it was me.
I don't think so. It's usually me. In any case, your helpful health hints.
Okay, this week is the benefits of lemongrass. So basically, this is something that you can grow. You can go to the greenhouse and get it at any greenhouse. I think it's available, but it's something that you can grow at home. As far as I know, it's just an annual, but you can dig it up and winter it over in your house or your basement or whatever. But there are a lot of benefits to lemongrass. One, it's used as a digestive aid, an anti-inflammatory and pain relief. It has antioxidant properties, antimicrobial effects. It has good results for blood sugar and cholesterol control, and it helps with stress and anxiety reduction, and it has an immune boost and other practical benefits such as culinary support systems. It's good for household and skin care, and it also has an agricultural value. And I just came across a column here. I think it was put on by Epic Times a little bit more, but they're seriously looking at lemongrass as part of being in cancer treatments. So it's just something to think about. So that's basically it for the benefits of lemongrass.
Well, thank you. And I also noticed that now I recognize what's happened here on your health hints. It's last week's health hints I have on here. You'll notice that I noticed it when I was doing it. And I thought, that Deb, she put part two. It's part 2 on here. And last week was part 2. So I changed that, but I didn't change the article. It must have been the dentist. I'm going to blame the dentist, right?
Go for it. I'm okay with it. We all know that everybody's busy and it happens. Like the one week that I sent you the win of the weeks, but I didn't highlight them for you.
Well, you know what I'm going to do, folks, is I will fix that tomorrow. And so if you go on our website and you open up the blog post tomorrow, it will be fixed and the right stuff from. Yeah, sorry about that. It was an honest.
No problem. All good. All good.
Now, Jason's here, so I am going to stop the share, and we should have both of us up and running. Jason, so long since I've seen you last. Oh.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me. Yeah, last time we spoke, I was in a different province and time zone, so things have changed a lot since last time we spoke.
I gathered as much because when the time started to go on, I thought, you know what? I know he got on an airplane today, and I know he's probably, I don't know where you are, but I saw him somewhere where the time zones changed again.
Yeah, I'm in beautiful Kelowna, BC, as we're doing our first showing in BC for the shot. Tonight is Kelowna, tomorrow is Nanaimo, and then Surrey on Thursday. And then I head back to Edmonton on Friday just to head down south to Red Deer for Saturday. So a very busy schedule on this end of the computer with a non-working microphone for some reason.
It's incredible, how much traveling you're doing with this thing. I mean, my goodness, before in the pregame show, we were talking about this little person who showed up at a Maxime Bernier thing in Manitoba, and how much effort this one little person all by herself did to try to sabotage that, and she wasn't yelling and screaming. She just stood in front of him, but what I was talking about is the dedication. And I mean, I don't know how many different places you've been in every week for the last, 2 months now?
Yeah, we started early February. This is the 4th province. We'll be going to Saskatchewan after the Red Deer stuff is done. So that'll be province number 5. And we're planning about 10 stops or so in the US. So all said and done, we should do about 40 stops to show the shot out there. It's very important to get this message out, this documentary out. You've seen it. Rosaline's seen it. Several people in Manitoba saw it. Thank you very much for helping that showing to be so successful in Selkirk and Winnipeg. And we're going back to Toronto on the 23rd of May. So anybody that's on the Zoom call that wants to see it in Toronto, a really big showing where Dan will be there, I'll be there, Dean will be there. Dr. Hodkinson is going to fly out for that one. We got Dr. Shoemaker coming down for that. We got Dr. Speaker going to be there. Helen Gruce, Detective Helen Gruce from Ottawa, she'll be there. Plus Alan Martin and Shauna Carroll. So if you watch the documentary, Sean Hartman's not the only story we feature in there. There's 2 other lost young people, and their parents are going to drive up from the U.S. to be there. So Toronto, Saturday, May 23rd will be a really large meet and greet. And if anybody's out in the Toronto area, please come and join us.
So that's Toronto, May 23rd. Okay. What's the
Yeah.
venue? What's the venue there, Jason?
To be determined. We're still
Okay.
trying to figure that out. It's always tough, as we spoke about this morning, getting venues. If we had an unlimited budget, it's pretty open, but this is a fundraiser, so we're doing our best to keep the costs down. But the venue will be determined soon, and then we'll announce it. But you can go ahead and get your early bird tickets now, or you can pick up a VIP package, which includes a private meet and greet, the DVD or USB. You'll get a signed poster as well, the bumper sticker, and you'll get a VIP seating. So you can also grab the VIP package as well.
Wonderful. Rosalie, are we going? Are we going to
I
Toronto?
think you are, because we moved it because of your schedule. So I hope you do
Jason,
make it.
in my recollection, I believe that you are coming. Yes, indeed, you are coming. Yes, you are.
No. I maybe haven't been married as long as some of you, but I've already learned the lesson that I always ask Rosalie first, right?
Well, she was there at that dinner when we were discussing dates,
Yeah.
so hopefully it does work. We
Thank God
didn't do
Ken's
it
a
on
quick
Mother's
study.
Day because that would have been a very difficult weekend for many people.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
No,
it would be great to have some of our MST people there in Toronto. It's not my favorite
Toronto.
place in the world, but if they can make me go there, anybody can. Jason, you want to talk a little bit about the event you've got coming up on Saturday in Red Deer?
It would be a pleasure to. So yeah, one of our best speakers are coming out from Manitoba. You guys may have heard of him, Ken Drysdale. He's going to be there with us. We got Stockwell Day joining. Viva Fry has confirmed today he's going to give us a video because he can't make it in person. He wanted to be there, but he won't be able to make it, but he'll send us a video. And for some of you who don't know who John Bolton is in Alberta, he's a really, really strong journalist. He used to be in the radio for 40 plus years out in Ontario. Great following here in Alberta. Chris Scott from the Whistle Stop, you may have known him. He actually went to jail for staying open during COVID. Several fines. He's been fighting and he's suing, I believe, for $12 billion for the loss of business in the class action in Alberta. So he'll be there. Frances Whittleson, she's going to be one of our speakers. If you don't know who she is, pick up a rock and go check it out because she's been going to the universities and trying to explain the truth about what happened with the Indigenous residential schools and the graves that not far from here, actually, where they say there's 212 graves or 215 graves. She's been speaking out about that. Lawrence McGee, you guys will know him as Berta Proud Dad, especially if you're in Alberta. He's a conservative influencer who's kind of jumped on the bandwagon of independence because he kind of saw the light. Things are difficult for Alberta. Melanie Bennett from Juno News out in Ontario, she's flying in to join us, along with David Craig, who's part of the Citizens podcast on the Miracle Network out of Calgary, a great guy. And like I said, Stockwell Day. The whole purpose of this is called Bearing Witness. And what we're doing is we're having conversations with people who do exactly that. They pay attention to what's going on to history as it unfolds in front of us, jot it down, write it down, be a journalist, do an article, or even pick up a microphone and have conversations to spread the information. This is now a key piece of our democracy that we need to make sure we keep doing because the current system, which is the legacy media or the Marxist media, whatever you want to call them, has totally dropped the ball. They've gotten to bed with the state. They're not holding the state accountable anymore. So it takes citizens and independents like us, independent people like us out there to go ahead and have these conversations. This is a non-political event. Everybody's welcome. It's not about Alberta independence. This is about watching history and reporting it and sharing it. So that's why everybody that's involved, including yourself, Ken, does that like you're doing exactly right now. This Zoom call is exactly why I asked you to come and join us, is because in your way, you're reaching out to a lot of people weekly, sharing good news, bad news, all news, and doing it in an unfettered live way. So thank you very much for agreeing to make the drive out there and joining us on Saturday, the 11th.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I mean, it's an educational process for all of us, not just for us who are podcasting, but those of you who are in the audience watching, because I know when we first started up, I don't recall who the guest was, but we had a guest on, and I was out of town actually, and I was in an airport somewhere. Rosalie phoned me, and all hell broke loose with a bunch of our members. Why would you? It was just as, and so I really have to hand it to our members. I kind of felt like I was the father knows best, and I wrote this letter about democracy, and I sent it out to all these folks, and it has never happened again. And and what I'm trying to say here is it's a learning process. You know, we're not used to hearing all sides or two sides or three sides. We're only used to hearing whatever bubble we're in. And it's important that we all break out of that, right, Jason?
Completely true. And we touched on this morning on our show when you joined us with John Bolton. And that is part of the trouble of trying to be a truth teller is sometimes the truth hurts. And people, and as we had from that one great movie, you can't handle the truth. That happens all the time. And when I have a guest on, maybe it's a left-leaning person or controversial person, I'm bringing them on because I want to learn what their perspective is, hear from them, maybe try to understand how their mind works, and then also provide to them some of my understanding and share some of my information. Maybe it's the first time they've heard somebody like me speak to them. I don't swear, I don't yell, I'm not very abrasive. I have calm conversations, and sometimes creating that environment and bringing people into it is a good way to open up minds on both sides of the table. But some people don't like that. They're like, hey, don't highlight that person, or you're the term that they use all the time is you're platforming that person. But what is that supposed to mean? Like, I'm not adopting their beliefs. I'm not adopting their understanding of their world views. I'm trying to learn what it is so I can be more prepared for it. But it's an interesting conversation to have. We dive deep into it this morning because it is the friction point.
Yeah.
Why did you have so and so? And then the opposite's true. Why don't you have so and so? And sometimes you can't have them all. Sometimes you can't get everybody on. But yeah, it's a challenge. I wrote a book about this called Bearing Witness. Ironically enough, it's the same title of the event, and it's free. You can go to thelavigneshow.com and download a free PDF of it. And this is some of the things we talk about. You need to remove your emotions from it, your biases from it, your preconceived conceptions as well, and you just need to observe and be a witness. And that's why there's a whole chapter about being prepared for court, because in order for your stuff to make its way into a courtroom, you got to be unbiased. The last thing a jury needs to see is you swearing at the police officers as they're breaking the law. Because are you unbiased? Do you have an agenda? What happened before? What happened after? So if you do it in a nice, calm way, you just collect the information, stay out of the story, it becomes something that's valuable in the courtroom too. So all of this is stuff that I talk about in my book for free, and I live by this stuff. This is what got me into my current function of being a journalist and a host of the Lavigne Show.
Yeah, and you know, you make a really good point with regard to the courts. And in the recent last 10 years or so, like I did a lot of expert witness work over 40 years. And in the last 10 years or so, when you're entering into that arena now, you have to actually sign a document for the court that says, essentially swears that you're going to be a non-biased expert. You never used to do that before. I don't know I don't know how effective it is to make people do that, but you know, you do that for a number of reasons, and it extends to what we're talking about today, as you said. You know, if you're just grandstanding about crazy stuff, people can see that, and it just jades the whole conversation.
And sometimes you end up becoming your own worst witness when you become part of the story. We saw that with the trials for the convoy in Ottawa. So Pat King, I think, would be a pretty good example, where basically every piece of evidence against him was one of his videos that he posted online of him yelling at the screen or telling people what to do or just walking the streets and having conversations and sometimes shouting matches. He ended up becoming his own worst witness, and he was very aware of that during the trial. I've had conversations with him. I'm like, so how did today go? He's like, oh, I embarrassed myself. I can't believe I spoke like that. I talked like that. I did that. And that's because he was being too involved as a witness on what was going on when he was recording. So hopefully the book is able to help people to understand that and also to help them get it into media. media does want to know this stuff. I do want to have, video. And a good example of this was Donald Best recently, where he posted a video of a 102-year-old man who the police were trying to execute a warrant on and take him to a long-term care facility. And inside that home, somebody recorded that encounter. And because it was done in, I would say, a sterile way, it wasn't yelling and freaking out, and it was capturing the moment and doing a good job at that. It became valuable on a journalistic level. So I was very pleased to see that that worked out. And as a result, worldwide coverage now, from a simple person holding a phone and staying out of the story and just capturing what's going on there. That's a good example of how to do that.
Yeah, and it's a matter of choosing what you want to be or what, if you're going to be a true reporter of the story, or you're going to be do something like what we're doing here and be educational. You can't be part of that story. You can bring people together, you can show people where to go, but you can't be out there screaming. You can't be out there actually campaigning. You can't be out there. We'd love to be campaigning for our folks, but we can't, because then we're not going to get both sides, and we do get both sides right now here.
Absolutely. When you're looking for justice and try and spread what's really going on, so being a journalist, it's very, very difficult sometimes. Sometimes your emotions do get involved. One of the hard lessons I learned was during the Coots trial. I kind of got too close to one of the families, the Carbard family. I sat beside his mom every day of the trial, hung out with his aunts and the rest of his family. They're just lovely people. And because of that, I found myself every once in a while in a predicament. Do I tell the whole truth of what I saw in there, even though it may upset the family and may upset Carbard? Because, yeah, he did have firearms there.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was a lot of ammo. And yeah, that's probably not a good idea. Do I tell the whole story, or do I allow my emotions and desire to protect somebody get in the way? In the end, I told the whole story. So I think everybody appreciated that. They can understand that, including the Carbards. They were very pleased that I didn't sugarcoat anything and I just told the truth the entire time, even when it was difficult, because I did build a relationship and a bond. And that's going to happen. We're humans and we're spending a lot of time with humans. And there's a lot of good people out there, and it will just happen. So that is also in my one of the chapters, to kind of focus on that, to try and distance yourself from that, because it can get in the way. It can create another emotional bias within yourself. And if you're not aware of that, it can get in the way of your reporting.
Well, one of the interesting things that you pointed out this morning on the show is that you very often have people ask you about a law, and you explain the law. You're not saying that it's a just law. You're not saying you support the law, but, well, yeah, the law says, and then they get mad at you.
That happens too often, frankly, and that's happening like all the time here in Alberta as there's court battles going on, like around the independence question. In fact, they were in the court today. And if I said, hey, actually, the way I read the law is this could be the outcome that the judge comes to, sometimes people will go, well, that's your hope. You actually want that to happen. I'm like, no, no, I'm reading the law. That happened a lot during the Pat King trial. So as the truth was coming out, or the evidence was coming out, I'll just call it the evidence. I'm like, oh no, that video, he definitely counseled against a breach of the court order by telling them to honk the horns. First video they showed us is him saying, don't honk the horns, as a court order. And then he got upset and I said, honk your horns. I'm like, oh no, that's counseling for sure. That's going to be a conviction there. And then telling people that, like, oh, you want him convicted, you want him locked up. He's already spent time in jail. I'm like, well, no, listen, when you analyze the law and you take a look at the law and then you talk about what you've observed and your experience, because I do have some experience in the law, it is what it is. It's not my opinion. It's not my hope. And a lot of the times I don't even like the law. The way they weaponized mischief, that was disgusting. The way they were trying to use that in Coots by saying the value of the highway that was blocked is the damage value. So it's a $10 million loss. This is a gross a mischief. It's like, oh, that's so silly. But I'll explain why it may work for the court or even the prosecutor because of the evidence in front of us, what was said, what was done, what was captured as evidence, what was presented. This is what an outcome can be. I'm not always 100%, because again, it is an analysis and it's my own analysis. But when it doesn't, fit the narrative, or these guys are innocent until proven guilty, and you say, well, actually, they're guilty on this part, it ruffles feathers and it certainly gets people upset. But at the end of this, Ken, the people that heard me do this work trust me more because they know that I can put that aside, give my honest opinion, even if you don't like to hear it, and they stick around. I have a pretty good following of people that look for the truth and trust me with that. Yeah. And it's an honor to be able to provide that.
Well, what you're talking about is exactly right, because I followed your Coots coverage, and I found myself, even though I really didn't know any of the details, and I never said it out loud, but I blew it off here, and then I listened to it again, and I went, "Yeah, it's right." But
it's unfortunate. Yeah, no, bringing the firearms there was probably not a good idea. Things would be very different if they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yes, the police were looking for firearms. They targeted a hunting trailer. They knew these guys had pals. They looked up the plates. Like, we know all of this. Sure, they were targeted, but they still had the firearms. It probably wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
But in the end, the jury did agree. And now they're going to have to go through some appeals, and we'll cover that honestly as well as we make our way through those.
Yeah. And that's important. Rosalie, you had your hand up. You want to go right ahead there?
I can wait till the end. I didn't want to interrupt. I don't know. You want me to ask right now?
Well, I do want to. I don't want to. Hit you from behind on this, Jason. But is there anything you want to tell our members about what's going on with the whole sovereignty movement in Alberta right now?
Sure. So we heard some arguments today in court. That's the Indigenous First Nations have filed an injunction to stop the petition signing process. Sadly, or not sadly, however you want to look at it, the signatures have already been collected well beyond the legal threshold. There's a large margin there. So this is kind of a moot issue in court, because even if it was a granted application, the process is already complete. But it's going to set some precedents on the kind of the tone for the rest of this. Can the court interfere with the democratic process like the petition signing and a referendum? There's several groups that would like to see that referendum not even happen, even though legally it's allowed to happen. As long as the citizens raise a certain number of signatures, they can go ahead with their petition question to become a referendum. We already have a date, October 19th. The Premier has made it clear that if the process is successful, it's going to be on that date, along with some other referendum questions. And we had our first day. The First Nations arguments, I got some court summaries sent to me as I was flying, and I read it, and I got to be honest with you, I don't think they have any meat on this bone. The First Nations arguments are all emotional. They're trying to read between the lines of the treaties and trying to read between the lines of the law, not follow the law. And the arguments from the APP people, so the petitioner and his lawyers, are basically like, read the law. This is allowed as long as we hit the thresholds. There is no mechanism built into the Citizens Initiative Act for interference by the court. The only requirement that the court has already been involved with is the Supreme Court has laid out the path forward for the Clarity Act, which was passed by Parliament. So there already is a court that's higher than the Alberta courts that say, no, a province can hold a referendum on this question. So I don't think the First Nations are going to be successful. I do expect that this application will be quashed, and signatures will continue to be collected all the way through May 2nd. I know it's going to upset a lot of people, especially with the First Nation chief side of things, but this is the law, whether they like it or not. And it works both ways. Like, if the law said First Nations, if they file an injunction and call the treaty into question, or hold it up as some sort of block, then it will block. Like, if that's what the law said, we would be on the other end of that, but it's not what the law says. The law is pretty clear. You citizens can raise a petition question and go ahead and bring it forward. So at this stage, we're expecting probably a decision on April 10th. So this week, there's going to be a couple more days of court. I'm not even sure what they're going to argue about. But there may be some questions from the judge as he makes his way through. One question that came up was the judge was asking whether or not foreign interference is a concern in this process. And the federal representative lawyer said no, they don't see federal interference when it comes to money raising. That's not an issue in this particular petition. So that issue got addressed by the court and moved on in favor of the petitioner. There doesn't appear to be any foreign interference involved with the financials of the petition signing process in this referendum.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I tend to think that this whole challenge with the First Nations isn't. I can't imagine on what basis that would be granted anyway, because this isn't changing. This doesn't affect this vote. This is a vote to do to put a referendum in front of Alberta's. It's not even that referendum, so it's got no effect on the treaties directly. We're going to have a vote if we have a referendum. If they want to challenge it after that point, that's a different kettle of fish in my mind. But we've got a bunch of people.
Correct.
Go ahead.
The Supreme Court has addressed this already. All stakeholders need to go with good faith negotiations if a referendum's successful.
Yeah.
So this is the cart coming before the horse.
Yeah.
It's like, well, look, we're not even at the stage of a successful referendum. But here's what I think is going on. They know the numbers. And the First Nations people understand that the people, Treaty Indians, actually don't want to be under the current system anymore. They don't want to be under the Indian Act. When I flew into Winnipeg, right in your airport, there's a big billboard that says stop legislative discrimination. And it was from your First Nations chiefs that said the Indian Act is racist. It's holding us back. And I'm like, yeah, that's completely true. Why is it that the Manitoba First Nations completely understand that problem, but the Alberta ones seem to think it's a good system to stay under? But what we saw was they went to the legislature, tried to yell and scream at the NDP saying this needs to stop. That didn't work. They filed this injunction in the court. I don't think that's going to work. They flew all the way to UK with some Saskatchewan First Nation chiefs to sit with the king. That's not going to do anything. So I think they fully understand that the numbers actually are leaning towards the First Nations people voting yes. They want self-determination. They want to be equal. They want to be living under the same laws as everybody else. They want to have property rights like everybody else. They want to be able to inherit and pass on property to their children, just like everybody else. That's what the First Nations people that show up to our events say. But the chiefs are in the court trying to hold them under the same system that they've been under for 100+ years. So I think what the chiefs understand is they're losing their power. They're going to lose their power in the referendum because the people are going to speak, including their people.
Yeah, I think you're right. We've got some questions. Connie, you want to go ahead? Don't forget to unmute yourself, Connie.
Thanks a lot. Good evening, Jason.
Hi, Connie.
How are you saying that October the 19th is not the real vote to
No.
separate from the rest of Canada?
No, that's not what I said at all. October 19th is the referendum vote. It just needs to get through this process of being successful in the signatures, validated, and then the Premier made it very clear that it will be on the ballot for October 19th.
Okay, the questions that's going on this ballot, have you seen them?
Oh, yes, they've been public for quite some time. So
Okay.
the one for independence has been published on stayfreealberta.com's website. It's like right on the homepage. And the other 9 questions that Premier released, 5 of them are policy questions about immigration, whether or not people should have access to services if they're immigrants under 12 months of being here, etc. And then 4 of them are constitutional questions like elected Senate, more involvement with judges on the provincial level. For example, Alberta wants to put forward judges to be assigned because it's assigned, but they want to at least pick the judges that can be selected. Right now, that's not part of the Constitution. So those 4 constitutional questions would have to get agreement from other provinces. That would fall under the 750 rule. 7 provinces that represent 50% of the population pass the House and the Senate, and then it can be a constitutional change. Don't think that's going to be successful. Even if they're popular, I don't think that's going to be successful because you have the House and the Senate, which is highly liberal right now, and like the system that's in place right now. They love sending senators to Alberta. They love sending judges to Alberta. So I don't see them wanting to cooperate with that process.
So
But yes, we know all the questions right now.
does Danielle Smith have any of her questions in that?
Those are her questions. The 9 are Danielle Smith's questions. 1 is from the Citizens Initiative.
The main one is from the Citizens Initiative, which is the question about do you want to separate, however it's worded. And then Daniel Smith has the other 9 questions, which have to do with constitutional procedures and whatnot.
Yeah, and the immigration control.
9 questions going to muddy the most important question?
You must be listening to my show often, and if you're not, Connie, you should, because one of the first things I did is I brought Bruce Party on, and these are some of the concerns he has, that it is going to muddy the process. It's going to make it difficult for the House, or actually going to make it easier for the House to fight against a successful referendum by saying it wasn't clear. Clarity Act says it has to be a clear question and a clear majority, and this opens the door to the conversation inside the House if it gets to that stage, that it wasn't a clear question because there was 9 other questions in addition to the independence one. But here are some things that I did find out. It's going to be a separate ballot altogether. So the independence question could be on its own ballot. The other questions could be on its own ballot or 9 other ballots. I'm not quite sure how many more ballots, but what's important here is Danielle Smith's questions are not going to be on the same ballot as the independence question.
Excellent.
And just a couple weeks ago, Saturday at Cornerstone with Sean Newman, Danielle Smith on stage, and I reported on it. She said the independence question is going to be counted first. And only if that question is defeated will the other 9 even be necessary. So from that, what we understand that to mean is if it's successful, the other 9 mean nothing because her mandate is going to be to separate from Canada at that stage.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's something.
Okay.
It's something. It's something.
Yeah. Deb, go ahead.
Yes, Jason, I was just wondering, just changing gears here for a minute, this panel that you're going to have with bearing witness, is there any way that it could be presented virtually and we pay a fee to watch it virtually if we cannot make it?
I'm so sorry to disappoint you, Deb. It's going to be free. So you won't have to pay anything. It will be free. We'll be streaming it live the day of. The whole 8 hours will be online for you, so you can watch it for free. You're more than welcome to find a way to send us a donation or become a member of our show if you want to help contribute in that way, but it will be free and it will be streamed live the same day.
Okay, so will
Ken,
that
you're
be...
on the spot. There's no editing. You're live.
Okay. Already a member of the Lavigne Show, so is it streaming through the Lavigne Show?
Yeah, but it won't be on Locals because it's 8 hours. Locals is only 2 hours long, but you'll find it on Rumble or YouTube or X or all the other platforms.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for being a supporter, Deb. I appreciate that.
Go ahead, James.
I watched an interview.
James.
How are you, buddy? I watched an
man.
interview of a very smart man who was suggesting that you guys break away from Canada, you're separated and whatever, but there hasn't been any discussion really about currency, flight pass. I mean, if you're your own little world there, are you still going to be entitled to use Canadian currency? And like, how does that all play out at the end? In the end, if you're able to separate, do you form your own money? Do you like? I don't get that part of it, I guess.
Those are excellent questions, James. And I put together another group that we're going to go on tour with. That includes Brett Olin from Bow Valley Credit Union to address questions like that. A lot of people don't want to see a central bank. They want to see a free market on the banking. They don't want to see a fiat currency. They want to see things tied to our resources. They don't like the idea of the Canadian currency because the Canadian currency is going to take quite the hit when Alberta leaves. There could be a transition on the currency, starting with US back to use the US currency for a bit until Alberta has its own dollar. Those are fantastic questions, James. They've been formulated. A lot of really smart people have had conversations around all of those kind of issues, like the military, the police, passport, immigration, yada, yada, yada. The list goes on. Post office even, like, what do we do? Here's the good news though, James. About 100 years ago, there was about 90 countries in the world. Now we're up to 200. So the process of countries splitting and becoming smaller and becoming independent and more autonomous has been happening for thousands of years, really. So the process is well understood. There will be a transitional government department as things are moved over. It's not going to happen overnight. Boom, everything's over. It's going to take some time. But the current government in place, which would be Danielle Smith's team, will have to create a transitional department, work with all the stakeholders. That includes banking, First Nations, immigration, and work their way towards the first, ideally, and we'll find out through a constitutional convention whether or not it will be a republic. But if it's a republic, it will be the first republic election, and then you'll see a new team that will actually start running the new republic or the new nation of Alberta. There's a lot of questions there, James. Fishery, national parks, all of this stuff. And yes, the airway. I'm a pilot, so I understand what that means. I don't think planes are going to stop. There's not going to be a bubble around Alberta. Things will be pretty normal as things get transitioned over.
Right. Thanks. I appreciate that. If I can find some money, I'll see you in Toronto.
Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be awesome. Maybe you can stuff into Ken's luggage there. You can pay for an extra bag. Get you out there with your blowhorn so you can go to Cineplex and let them know what you think.
Now you're talking.
Go ahead, Iris. You're muted, Iris. There we go.
I was wondering, Jason, if there was any discussion going on about, Alberta's working up this system, and would there be a discussion on maybe inviting others in Canada to join them later on and say, this is what we have to offer? What do you think?
Well, what I hope happens, and we've had this conversation on one of our tours, was Alberta is going to create a new template for freedom and how provinces or other places around the world, especially in the Western world, can go ahead and redefine their self-determination and autonomy. And I hope other provinces like Saskatchewan, maybe northern BC, like where I am at, not so bad. The lower mainland, we don't necessarily want them. But what will likely happen is under the Clarity Act is the provinces have to do it on their own. It'll be on the same day and all that kind of stuff, but they have to do it on their own. And then when that's all done, what I can see happening would be a union, but not a federalist coalition where there's a new federal layer, just a union of republics that have trade agreements and security agreements, and they work together, and you can cross the borders pretty easily between Saskatchewan and Manitoba. I can see that being the long term. But what I don't see happening is a brand new country created of all the previous provinces. I don't want to see us kind of redo the broken system, which is you have your autonomy and then you have federal government on top of that. I'd like to see us to stay individual, but work very, very, very closely together in the future.
Yeah. And another question was, I gather that Switzerland has a good system. Is there also people exploring what works in other parts of the world?
There's multiple. So
Perfect.
there's some people that say, take the Canadian one, clean it up, fix it up a bit, and just run with that. Some people say, take the US one, clean it up, fix it, put some things in there that we like, run with that. The Swiss model comes up a lot. And Bruce Party has a completely different model altogether, which is currently the government has all power, and then we do things like Bill of Rights or charters to limit their power on people so that it says, hey, you can do anything you want. You just can't take away our freedom or our life or our liberty. But Bruce Party's model is flipping that completely where the government has no power. All power stays with the people except for what we define. So you have to protect our borders. You need to do international trade. You need to make sure that people can't force themselves on us. So you limit the government to having no power except for what's listed. And under that model, you don't need a charter or a Bill of Rights. You already have them. It works the other way around. So you have a smaller government with less power and you run it that way. It'll be the first time on this earth that there's a government that starts that way. And he calls it reversing the default. But I would love to see something along those lines too. I think it's a brilliant way to look at it. Your government has no power except for the power the people give it. That's far better than the government has all power except for where you want to try and protect yourself as the individual.
Have you heard of sortation before? And
Not that term specifically. I'm
it's
more of a journalist, a high-level journalist, but I've certainly spoken to many people. The APP has a draft constitution that they're going to release after the signature period's done, because they don't want to interfere with the signature period. But after the signature period up till October 19th, there's going to be a lot of conversations about what can Alberta look like. But do keep in mind that these are not being decided at this stage. The decisions are going to come later in the Constitutional Convention, and they're going to be ratified by the people through a vote. So once all the dust settles in the Constitutional Convention, some document will come out, and then the people will ratify it or approve it through a vote. So the people will be part of the process. They're going to make sure it's what they want. And also the Constitutional Convention itself will have delegates from the people there to represent the people on various levels. First Nations, business, banking, farming, all of them will be there represented.
thank you.
Connie,
Yeah, you're welcome.
Connie, you got another question? You know you're muted, right, Connie?
That was CSIS that did that.
Yeah, that's right. CSIS did that. The Republic of Alberta, was that a name that was being floated around to call Alberta? Republic of Alberta?
Well, that would be the system. It would be a republic. Now, whether or not that's like the name on the passport, who knows? It could just be the nation of Alberta. It could just be Alberta. Alberta, the collection of great minds. Like what the title is, I don't know, but there will be one. And there's even some people that say we need to change our name because Alberta has a connection to the monarchy. So we'll see where this goes. But this is a multi-step process. Like in a divorce, maybe you want to drop the last name, maybe you don't want to drop the last name. Not sure where it's going to go, but what's important now is to make our way through the steps. And the first step is to collect enough signatures valid to get ourselves on the petition or on the referendum, and then have a vote. And then if that vote turns out to be yes, that's where a lot of this hard work and these answers will start to come out at that point.
Thanks.
Jason,
You're
we've
welcome.
gone beyond our time limit. We have another question. Are you okay? I don't want to take advantage. Mary, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Jason.
Hi. Hey, Mary.
Yeah. What happens with the monarchy? What are you guys going to do? Tell the king too bad, so sad. This is ours now.
Well, they said too
Just,
bad, so
you
sad
know,
to Andrew, so things can change pretty quickly with the monarchy. But yeah, there's very little desire even across Canada to still be part of the monarchy. In fact,
yes,
of
I
all the
understand.
Commonwealth nations right now, Canada has the lowest number at 23% support for the monarchy. Other nations like Jamaica even had more support, but they're switching over to a republic through their parliament. Yeah, there's very little desire to stay under a head of state with King Charles. One of the big reasons people want to get out of Canada is to get away from the globalist institutions. So the monarchy, the UN, NATO, all of these things,
The
there's a
green
big desire
agenda.
in Alberta.
Yeah,
The agenda, the narrative, the influence, all of that. There's a big desire to distance ourselves from that. So I think it would be a tremendous mistake to continue to be part of the Commonwealth or the monarchy because you're still part of the systems that we're trying to get out of.
Okay, perfect.
Is that it?
And we want northern.
Is
Sorry, we want northern Manitoba to go.
yeah.
We will take Manitoba, even with Winnipeg. We'll reform you guys.
Thank you,
now,
Jason.
now, Rosalie, you were patiently with your hand up and it's down now. Was there a question you wanted to ask?
No, I don't think so. It's not relevant right now anymore. I was just, but what I will say is appreciate actually both of you guys, the way you set the example of how to handle people with opposite opinions. You're very level and you're very, nobody flies off the handle. I think that's a very good example for all of us. What I was going to actually ask you, Jason, just some, a couple of bullet points on how, because it is always sort of like it tends to be, not always, but it tends to be inflammatory with different opinions. And now with the political atmosphere globally, and certainly, with, in between families and people or even just somebody on a different page than you, people can tend to get pretty defensive and fired up, and the emotions are pretty flared. So how do you what advice would you give? Maybe just a couple of ideas, whatever. How do you keep your emotions under control? And what would you say in a conversation or even a debate kind of a format, even especially if the other person is getting all hot and bothered? How do you handle that? Some advice.
2 ears, one mouth. You do a lot of listening, and you keep an open mind too. Because when people are communicating to you, even if they're upset or emotional, they want you to be hearing them. So what they're trying to tell you is, hey, I'm concerned about this, or I'm worried about that, or I actually love Canada and I don't want to see it broken apart. You got to listen to what they have to say. Don't dismiss them. Don't try and talk over them, and don't browbeat them with your points. Listen to what they have to say. And more often than not, it's fear driving their frustration. So they're worried about something or fearful of something, or they listen to too much news and they say, oh, you're going to lose your pension, things like that. In a calm way, you tackle their actual concerns. Don't dismiss them at all. You treat it the same way you would anybody else that disagrees with you, whether it's your child, your wife, your neighbor, or even the host of the Zoom you're on. You listen, and that's the first step to do that. And then the next piece to that is once they're a little bit more open to hearing from you because you're not browbeating them, you can then provide them some of the information. So, well, what does an Alberta pension plan look like? Can you have both? Well, you'll lose your CPP if they vote yes. The answer is no. The CPP will follow you wherever you go unless it gets replaced with a better, an equal or better system. That's what the law says. Provide them actual information, and then they feel far better. And the last piece I would say here is understand that there's just some people you're not going to convince because it's completely emotional for them. And no amount of practical answers will help. And understand that. And I'm not saying cut your losses, but learn when you're just not going to convince that person. So about a third of people are not going to be convinced at all. A third of the people already are convinced. They don't need any. The ones in the middle are the ones where you have the opportunity to have conversations with them. And I'm proud and happy to say, in all my events that I've done and all the conversations we've had, we've been very successful of being able to address the concerns and get people to kind of open up to some of the other points that we're trying to make, whether it's financial or spiritual, because quite frankly, I'd like to see a return to God. And a new Alberta may be able to do that for a lot of us. So that would be my approach. You don't browbeat them, you listen. And that would be a great way to start.
Iris, go ahead.
I got a question on qualifying for this vote. Now, I lived in Alberta for 42 years, and I was going to send a picture to Danielle Smith showing the tombstone in Alberta that has my name on it. So I'm going to live there forever. So would I be able to vote, or should I, since I'm in just over the border in BC here, should I be working on trying to get us to join Alberta too?
Yeah, so the same requirements are going to be for the provincial election for the referendum. You need to be a resident of Alberta, 18 years of age, and a citizen of Canada. So if you don't live, your primary residence is not in Alberta, it doesn't matter if you were born there or spent most of your life there. You're going to have to establish a residence in Alberta to qualify. And if you're considering doing that, you should consider doing it soon because there may be a requirement where you have to be there for 6 months in order to establish your residency. This is one of the things that are going to protect us against what happened in Quebec, where a lot of people just showed up in Quebec and then got their ballot choice heard. And as we heard, from throughout history, there was a lot of no votes that showed up suddenly. That won't be an issue in Alberta because you have to be a resident here first. Apologies that we're going to miss your vote if you're not a resident, but you're here in spirit, and maybe BC will have a referendum on this one day as well.
Connie?
And by the way, where in BC are you?
Iris, you're muted.
I'm in a small little town here called Canal Flats.
Is it near Surrey, Nanaimo, or Kelowna?
In Vermeer, not too far from Banff.
Oh, okay. So you're on the other side of the mountains. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'll miss you tonight too. I was
Yeah.
going to tell you come on out and come say hi, but you're a little ways away.
Thanks. All the best.
last question.
Last question. Thank you. I heard Shadow Davis one time say that Alberta contributes at least $10 million to our province. What that would be for CPP stuff, right? How does that work?
No, that might be equalization he's referring to. If anything, and 10 million seems like a really small number.
Yeah.
Well,
I think Manitoba is not a large receiver of equalization anymore, so he might be referring to that.
Yeah, he's referring to equalization, and what he's done is because equalization payments actually go into general revenue. I mean, as they're being charged from the provinces, and then it comes out of their contributions, and then it's the government that kind of puts it in a pot, gives 51 or 52% to Quebec, and a little bit to everybody else. So he was probably referring to that. It's not quite true. It is, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like Alberta's not paying money into the equalization. They're paying their money into Canada. Canada stirs it up, and they give some to whatever, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, and part of that comes from BC, part of that comes from Ontario.
Yes.
About 80% comes from Alberta.
Yeah.
All right then, everybody. Well, Jason, I really appreciate you coming on the last minute like this and helping us out, and you can tell by the questions that people really appreciated you and rely on you for good, solid information. So, my friend, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks for letting me bear witness and share it on your show today. And I'm looking forward to having dinner with you Friday. It's going to be a long day for me as I'm leaving BC, and I'll come meet you there. But looking forward to seeing you and Rosalie again.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to it as well. All right, everybody.
Yeah, us too. See you soon.
Love you, buddy. Thank you, Jason.
I'm going to leave, and maybe Canada soon.
Bye.
Well, everybody, we've got a little overtime tonight, but thank you for hanging on. I think it was important. I mean, you know, we could have Jason on for 8 hours and we wouldn't get through everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to suggest that we will not do the little course teaching tonight. Normally we get about 10-minute break and then we come back to it, but I think we've gone late enough tonight. Next week, when we get into this, into our lessons, that's when you really want to be at, because I'm actually going to go through the nomination forms, and I'm going to go through where you get them and how you get them and how you fill them out and all that kind of stuff. I may also have, I hate to say it, but I may also have a ChatGPT expert program to fill in your nomination forms for you. But we will cross that bridge when we come to it, because of course we'll be traveling between then and now. So we'll do everything we can to get that on, but let's come back next week. We'll be nice and fresh and after the conference, and we'll really tie into the lesson next week. So everybody have a great week. Thank you for coming out. We really appreciate it. And you've been great. We will see you next Tuesday.
Truly appreciate all of you guys. We appreciate all of you guys. You're all so important.
Love you all.
Rosalie, you guys are awesome.
You guys are. Thank you guys.
And keep in mind, next week we have somebody who's thinking about being a candidate.
Yeah, we're tuning in. I'm not missing that.
You're not running against Rosalie, are you?
What the fuck?
Sean and Teresa coming on to talk about Bill C-224 and the whole committee process that it's going through right now. So that's something you want to watch. You'll get to see one of your friends up talking about what they're thinking about, and you'll get to see, I guess we could say, our old friends Teresa and Sean. So we will see you next week.
Bye,
Good night, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Love you guys.